everyone again, and warmly welcome to another episode of Gas-o-Loon. I thought it would be time now, having owned this for 14 months, to make a full review of what I think about the bike, the pros and the cons. I've been through asphalt touring, I've been through hooning on the streets, of course, single tracks, gravel roads, what have you with this bike, and I believe I have a fair view on what I like and what I don't like. So if you're out there thinking about buying a 1290 Super Adventure R, I suggest you give me 10 minutes of your time, and that might help you in whether you should choose this bike or go for something else. This bike, as you can see, is not completely stock. I now have a set of extra rims on it, which are used only for asphalt riding. These are a bit smaller from a Super Adventure S, but most of the time I go for the full 2118 wheels that I have off-road tires on. Apart from that, I have a Remus slip-on that I bought pretty early in the ownership. The riding position of the 1290 Super Adventure R is a bit more compact than its predecessor, the 1190. I don't know why KTM did that, whether they thought that the 1290 would be more touring oriented than the 1190. Anyway, for me it was far too compact, so I had to add some bar risers here. And I also contacted a guy in, I think he's located in the Czech Republic, he's called Bosley, and he made me those rally foot pegs, which are really, really good. They are 30 millimeters down and 20 millimeters further back, and also wider and longer, of course. And now I have a perfect sitting and standing position on the 1290. Apart from that, I have here, of course, I have an off-road dongle. That's a small device that you just plug in. When you turn the ignition off, the settings will still be there when you turn the ignition on again. You don't have to redo all the settings, which is really well, it can get you into nerve wrack whenever you're riding off-road. Otherwise, when sometimes the bike stalls and you need to redo everything. That's not very good. I also installed some stronger hand protectors here. Of course, a GPS unit and a GPS bracket. I also have the travel pack installed, and the travel pack includes a quick shifter, which is the important feature. It also includes some hill hold control that sort of applies the brakes whenever you're starting in an incline, and some other stuff as well. But the only important thing there is really the quick shifter, which you should have on this bike, I believe. Okay, let's start the full review here with the engine, the heart in every motorcycle, especially in this, I would say. This engine is a 1.3 liter V-twin, as you know, and it's one hell of a power plant. It's got enormous amounts of power. I would say I would characterize it like this: it has a strong low end, strong torque on the low end. Maybe not quite as strong as I would have expected. For instance, if you ride a BMW 1250 GS, that low end torque is even stronger. But once you reach the mid-range by, let's say, 5,000, the bike really starts to fly. And, you know, when you're approaching 7, 8, it sort of enters warp speed. It's so fast. And it's also very fast in the high speed regions. So if you start accelerating from 200 kph, it will still give a kick. So it's very, very fast. Do I need all that power? No, I don't. It's cool to have, of course, but I would actually trade some more low-end grunt with top-end power. The smoothness of the engine is a big step up versus the 990 series. If you're riding one of those bikes, it's very close to the 1190. It's virtually the same. So it's good. It's not best in class when it comes to smoothness, but it's really good. Fuel consumption is where it should be. I average between 5 and 6 liters per 100 kilometers, and it doesn't seem to be very much affected if I ride really hard. So maybe it approaches 6 then. So and the tank is over 20 liters, so you have a decent amount of range. I think the Remus exhaust that I bought looks a lot cooler than the standard Akrapovic. It's also much lighter. It weighs less than half of the Akrapovic. It also has a baffle that you can easily take out and bring back in. What I have experienced is that for me, for my ears at least, I use earplugs always. It's slightly loud when I have the baffle out, and it's slightly hushed when I have the baffle in. But anyway, I'm getting older by the day, and I'm really more and more appreciating a motorcycle that's reasonably silent, so I keep the baffle in these days. The brakes are really strong, leaves nothing to be desired in my world. Strong, consistent action. I never missed anything when it comes to the brakes. Really, really good. Also the rear brake. It has the adjustability that it needs to be able to stall the rear wheel, and I like that too. It works well. Let's go on to the suspension. The suspension on the 1290 Super Adventure R is a major improvement over the 1190 Adventure R. That bike seemed to bottom out quite easily, for me at least, when I was riding in small whoops or on single tracks. This one has much more progression in it. Hard bottom outs are few and far between, so it's the suspension is really, really good on this bike. When it comes to ergonomics, I'm very happy with the bike as it is right now, after having installed the bar risers and the lower foot pegs. I am 190 tall, that's about 6'3", for those of you who are non-metric, and I have a really good sitting position now, much better than before these changes, because of the newer, more compact sitting position on the Super Adventure R relative to the 1190. When it comes to the buttons and the way the menu system works, etc., it works fine. I think it's great. Leaves nothing to be desired from my point of view. The general comfort level on this bike is high. There are very few vibrations, or at least nothing that sort of bothers me in any way. The wind protection on the 1290 Super Adventure R is also a major improvement versus its predecessor, the 1190 Adventure R. It's got sort of 2 layers now, and it has much less buffeting. The saddle works well for me. I think it's fine. I haven't discovered anything that I think is wrong with it. It's also a very good thing with this bike that after having ridden for like 200-300 kilometers, you can always stand up for a while and ride very comfortably with full control of the clutch and everything standing up, and that's real butt saver. Whenever you talk about KTM, you have to mention the quality, or rather the lack of. It's no catastrophe quality wise in any way, but there usually you have some issues. And me and a friend of mine, we had together between us, we had a couple of issues. It started with this little saddle lock failing for him, and he also had a failed rear brake when we were traveling off-road, which was not very good. I've had a couple of issues, but the most irritating was this ignition key here that just would not work, or this ignition button that wouldn't work. I also had front rims that were not really straight and true, and you know, all these issues, they are no big deal really. I've had Ducatis before, they had even more issues, but the thing that KTM really needs to improve is how they handle the warranties, because a lot of warranty claims that they do, which in my view are totally fair and should be fixed, they are just rejected by KTM, which I believe will be a mistake for them in the long run. I believe they started doing that with the 1190 series. When that was launched, it had lots and lots of technical problems in the beginning. They released it slightly too early in my view, and then the warranty claims just kept heaping up, and I believe in the end that was threatening the financial result of KTM, and they had to be a bit financially short-sighted, being on the stock exchange and everything, so they decided to be very strict when it comes to warranty claims. Not a good policy. So what's a bike like in different environments? Well, let's start by speaking about what it's like on asphalt when you're going around town, or just having a good time with your friends on small roads. Well, engine-wise, it's crazy fast. You might need to rev it a little bit more than the equivalent, let's say BMW 1250. But it's very strong. Engine-wise, brakes are strong. They are fantastic. It will be all you need, and the bike is With a 21-inch normal, not now, but the normal front wheel, it's in high speed it can be very stable, so it needs some convincing to get it to lean in, but it's very good handling wise, very good on an asphalt road. This bike is fast. I think for most riders you will be faster on a winding road with this one than on a sports bike with equal power, so it's much more comfortable and you a better vision and easier to control. So asphalt tuning really good. When it comes to wheeling, it's no problem to wheelie this bike to get the front up, but it's quite front heavy, so it needs quite some convincing to get it up there. A lot of power or a lot of weight transfer to make that happen. And it's more, I would say, it's more effective than playful when it comes to that sort of things. If you will take the bike off-road, let's start with the gravel road. It's a fantastic gravel road monster. It's stable with the different ride modes, for instance with the off-road mode and with the off-road ABS where you can lock up the rear wheel. It's fantastic. It's crazy fast on gravel roads. On flowy gravel roads there are a few things that will be faster, I can tell you that. On the other hand, and it's reasonably easy to handle if there are big bumps. The suspension now on the 1290 can handle it well, so it's a dream really. Then if you enter some single tracks or let's say easy enduro trails, if you're on one gravel road system, you want to go over to the next on on some sort of forestry machine track or anything, that's what we do anyway, you realize it's a heavy beast. It's really heavy. Once it gets rolling, it's fine, but if you get stuck in mud or anything like that, you're in deep trouble. You think about, should I call a helicopter now, or what are we going to do? It's good if you're two people, because you need to be two sometimes to just get it unstuck. And you also need to scout a lot. You look, will I really be able to pass that soft part of the terrain, or will I get stuck? Please have a look at it first before you go over it, because if you enter it, you will have a real hard time getting up again. And the high center of gravity and the high seat height will also make it hard to handle for smaller riders. I'm pretty tall, so for me it's fine. But whenever I get stuck, or if you have a combination of slippery and steep, where you need a lot of traction here, and it will be a handful, I can tell you that. And you need to be willing to take some risks, both regarding your own arms and legs, of course, but also when it comes to the motorcycle, because when it drops, it's heavy. If you drop on the handlebar or anything, you might easily bend it. So it's in a true off-road environment, this is for experienced riders. If you're going on the Trans-European Trail or anything like that, and you're a beginner or intermediate, I suggest something like that. Another thing that's pretty interesting when it comes to off-road, sometimes it's really important in an off-road environment. There might be like a smaller log or anything. It's very common here in Sweden anyway, and you just want to be able to quickly lift the front wheel and just bump over it and go on. This bike is so front heavy, so that it's very hard to lift the front wheel. You need to, I've seen like Chris Birch and guys do that on, but I'm not Chris Birch, and very few of you who are watching will be Chris Birch either. So that's a bit of a negative in an off-road environment. It's very hard to get enough traction to be able to lift the front wheel, because there's so much weight up here, and that limits the bike somewhat also in the off-road, as an off-road bike. Trying to sum up here what I like and what I don't like about this bike. Let's start with the short list, and that is what I don't like. Well, some of the quality issues, but most of all how KTM handles the warranty claims. I think that's a bad thing about KTM. And that's it basically. Now I would say if you are an unexperienced rider, or if you're short, it's hard to handle. And in the wrong environment or a hard off-road environment, it's just too big, too heavy to be really fun. You can do amazing things, but you need the skills and the strength. That might be the only negative things, and there's a long list of positives. It's so fun on a winding road. The handling is super brakes are fantastic. The engine is just crazy strong, and if you're driving on gravel roads, it's so fast, and the suspension is so effective and so nice. It's so much fun all the time. If you're traveling for long, it's just so comfortable and so enjoyable. Generally, it sounds cool, it looks cool. I love almost everything about this bike, and I've had so much fun with it during this first year. So if you're thinking about this bike, unless you're unexperienced and want to use it for heavy off-road use, then I suggest you look at something else. Otherwise, buy it. It's fantastic.